Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Spurs Up Show. This is episode 16. We're previewing the matchup this weekend in Columbia, Missouri. It's the battle for the Mayor's Cup. The South Carolina Gamecocks travel to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Missouri Tigers. But first, if you do want to follow the Spurs Up Show, be sure to check us out on iTunes at the Spurs Up Show. Be sure to go there, rate and subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. We always appreciate all the feedback there. Also, this is a podcast brought to you by Armchair All-Americans. Armchair All-Americans, localizing your sports coverage content. Go to armchairawllamericans.com. Check out all of our South Carolina Gamecocks coverage there, as well as, of course, the podcast and the articles we put out. Also, be sure to follow us on our Twitter account at ArmchairSCAR. That's at ArmchairSCAR. Tweet us all your questions. We get a lot of listener questions in that way. Be sure to follow us for all your the breaking news there as well, the articles we post, just all of the Armchair All-Americans content. And also be sure to go check out our Instagram page at Armchair S Carolina. That's at Armchair S Carolina for a lot of unique content there as far as videos. We post clips from the podcast as well. Really cool stuff there. So be sure to go check it out. So without further ado, like I said, I'm joined as always with my esteemed colleague, Tyler Clark. And Tyler, they gave out a trophy for this game. It's Missouri week. The Gamecocks open SEC play, the only SEC game on the slate for this week. And the Gamecocks do travel up to Columbia, Missouri. But first, how you doing? How's everything going with you?
It's good. I'm not quite as excited as I was last week, but I don't know why. I guess this week, we're getting into the swing of things. But Missouri's always a good game. My favorite Carolina game ever was a Missouri game. The Connor Shaw comeback was my favorite game ever. So I always love playing Missouri.
Yeah, it has really been a good game since Missouri joined the SEC a couple years ago, since 2012. And setting the stage for the game, like we said, it is the battle for the Mayor's Cup. They give out the trophy each year, the battle of the Columbias, if you will, with South Carolina being in Columbia, South Carolina, Missouri, obviously Columbia, Missouri. Like I said, this is the SEC opener for both teams. They'll play the game at Farrat Field, or as they call Memorial Stadium. The game is a 7 o'clock kickoff Eastern time, 6 o'clock Central, which will be local time. It's televised on ESPN2. Play-by-play will be done by Anish Shroff, Mike Golick Jr., and Roddy Jones. And a little bit of the series history, like we said, and Missouri actually does lead the series 4-3. South Carolina leads the series 3-2 since both teams have been SEC schools. But the last time they met, Tyler, we were just talking before the show, South Carolina actually beat Missouri 31-21, which was definitely an offensive-filled game. Another game like we saw last week with NC State. The Gamecocks defense made a bunch of just opportunistic plays and forced a couple turnovers, forced Drew Lock to make a couple bad decisions. And Jake Bentley was still sort of getting his feet wet, establishing himself. So it was a good win for the Gamecocks last year, really solidified them getting to bowl eligibility. But now they go to Missouri, a place that, like we were saying, Tyler, was home to the 2013 South Carolina Missouri game. Obviously, some different stakes there with both of those teams, I think, ranked in the top 10 or top 15. But they've definitely had some great games over the years. I think 2012, the one exception, when South Carolina won that one pretty easily. But a lot of close games, and it always does seem to be a good game. So Missouri, a little bit about them last week. They opened up with Missouri State at home. It was a noon kickoff, Eastern time at least. Tyler, a pretty interesting game. Won that one 72-43. At one point, they did trail 35-34 in the first half. But they did set a school record for offense, 72 points. 815 yards of total offense, and it was the first time that Missouri's actually ever had a 500-yard passer and a 200-yard rusher in a game. So I found that really interesting to see. And lastly, the Tigers, their coach, just a little bit of scouting the Tigers. They're coached by Barry Odom. He's in his second year. Has a 5-8 overall record. The Tigers struggled to a 4-8 record last year, won their first game. So with that being said, like I said, scouting Missouri just a little bit briefly here before we dive into kind of breaking the game down itself. The Missouri, that highly touted offense that we just talked about, is led by quarterback Drew Lock. Like I said last week, he set the Missouri record through 7 touchdowns, 521 total yards passing. Just had a field day, 21-34, 7 touchdowns and a pick. Really one of the best young quarterbacks in the SEC, along there with Jake Bentley. I think Tyler doesn't catch a lot of as much of the hype as he probably deserves, just because he plays on a team that hasn't been very good, at least. But he's definitely one of the best young passers in the SEC. The backfield from Missouri, the running backs led by Demaria Crockett, had a really good game last week against Missouri State. 18 carries, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns. And he actually set the Missouri freshman record last season for yards with 1,062. Behind him is a guy, Tyler, we were talking a little bit before the show, a guy, Ish Witter, that actually had a pretty good game against the Gamecocks last year. Had 11 carries for 80 yards in that game in Columbia. Guy who's a senior this year, he had just 8 carries for 41 yards against Missouri State. So it looks like it is Crockett's backfield. He had a good game too, I should mention. He actually had 13 carries for 82 yards.
Yeah,
I think
I remember his name.
Yeah, I think we all remember those carries in the middle when Missouri was kind of gutting the South Carolina defense. But Witter's a guy. It's definitely Crockett's back, but Witter's a guy brings that senior leadership, and they are deep at the running back position. Wide receiver, another talented group from Missouri. They're led by Jamon Moore, only receiver in the SEC last season with 1,000 yards receiving. He had 4 catches for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. Jonathan Johnson, freshman All-SEC last year, 5 catches, 116 yards, and 2 touchdowns last week against Missouri State. Has really great speed. And then Demetrius Mason, another guy, freshman All-SEC team last fall, actually set the Missouri record for catches and yards with 47 catches, 587 yards in the year. Didn't do much last week, just 1 catch for 12 yards, but he's a guy they're pretty high on as well. Tight end, this was a guy, Tyler, I saw in a bunch of highlights. I can't really say his last name. His name is Albert Okwuegbunam. That's as good as I can really do. They called him Albert O on the telecast.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with, Albert O.
Albert O. We'll go with that. He had 2 catches for 51 yards, a touchdown versus Missouri State. A really big guy. They've got him listed on the depth chart as 6'5", 260. So definitely a big tight end target for them. And then their offensive line, rounding out the offense. One of the biggest offensive lines in the SEC. Every guy on the line is over 315 pounds. Their left tackles, actually, I think he's let me check. Left tackle, 6'8", 330 pounds. So he's a big fella. Their right tackle, though, Paul Adams, actually was a preseason All-SEC second-team guy. But they do break in a new player on the line this year at center. Redshirt freshman Paul Adams is the new starter there. So that's always an interesting transition when you're going to a new center. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, the Tigers come in with a 3-4 scheme they like to play. The defensive line, not nearly, Tyler, as good as the traditional Missouri defensive lines we've seen with guys like Michael Sam, the other guys that follow the other defensive ends,
Shane
and stuff
Ray,
like that. Yeah, Shane Ray. That was the name I couldn't think of at the moment. But those guys that have come through there, they've traditionally had a really talented defensive line. Not so much this year, but they are led by Terry Beckner Jr., who's probably the best. Who is the best player on their D-line, and he's probably the best player on their defense overall. Was a preseason All-SEC second-team selection. Linebackers, they actually rotate about 6 different guys. The biggest thing I noticed just showed a lack of speed and athleticism against Missouri State. Missouri State was really able to have their way as far as on the short routes, kind of swinging guys out, crossing routes, stuff like that. And then the secondary rounding out the defense, Missouri defense. Again, Tyler, sort of like last week, as we talked, a really vulnerable group. I mean, they gave up almost 400 yards passing last week. Not nearly as big as NC State was in the secondary as far as height, but I don't think really anybody with COB having guys 6'2" all over the place. But they do have a true freshman at free safety, and Jordan Ulmer played his first game, I should say, last week. But their most experienced players at the other safety position, Anthony Sherrills, he's a senior there at strong safety. So, Tyler, with all that being said, what does it mean? We talked a little bit about last week. Missouri won the game, obviously, 72-43, but this was not a blowout by any stretch of the imagination. Missouri had to battle. I remember, I was at the tailgate, and I think I texted you, and, Missouri at one point in the first half was trailing to Missouri State 35-34. So I'll ask you first, were you able to watch any of that game? If so, what takeaways do you have from it? If not, obviously just kind of from looking at Missouri, what happened in that game, obviously they pulled away late, but what's sort of your feeling about the Missouri Tigers and, who they are basically coming into this weekend's matchup?
I feel kind of the opposite of how I felt going into NC State. I feel like this game's going to come down to more instead of our offensive line, it's going to come down to their offensive line and whether they can block our guys. Looking at the receivers, it kind of scares me a little bit. 4 catches for 187 yards is pretty impressive no matter who you're playing. And then he had 1,000 yards last year. I didn't know that at all. You could tell last year just watching them at Williams-Brice that their offense is super talented. But Jake Bentley had his way with their defense last year as a freshman. So I think this is going to be super high scoring. I I don't think our defense is going to be able to kind of stop them as much as we hope so. And I think it's going to be another one of those days where people kind of complain about giving receivers 10 yards cushion, because I think that'll be the case again this week. After this week, I don't think much of that will be happening. But I think give it one more week, and I think we'll give up a lot of yards. But I think we can have our way on offense for a change.
Yeah, definitely. And just kind of going back to what you were saying, yeah, they definitely have some talented skill position guys on the outside. I mean, like I was actually able to watch a little bit of their game on replay, some of the highlights there. And, yeah, tons and tons of Drew Lock's yardage and touchdowns came on plays where Missouri simply ran like a 5 to 6 yard curl or an out, and the guy, made the catch and made a play on it. Honestly, their guy was just better than the Missouri State defender in that situation. The first play of the game, actually, I think they took it for a 75-yard touchdown. I mean, literally the first play of the game.
Nice.
And you could just, obviously South Carolina, I think we can both agree, has much, much better athleticism and skill players and talented players than Missouri State, who is, I wouldn't even call upper tier FCS team, if you will. But yeah, I think last year, Missouri's kind of a team, like you said, that kind of almost sleepwalks through the East. Nobody really knows about their guys. I didn't know about Jamon Moore really either until I was doing the preview and started looking through the stats and everything. I tend to agree with you as well, and I'll get more into it when I talk about our predictions. But I think it'll be high scoring. However, I don't think it'll be as high scoring as most think. Like I said, we'll talk about that.
Either.
But Drew Lock is obviously a great player. I mean, the kid, they love to run an up tempo offense on offense. Everything that they ran Saturday against Missouri State was, him in the shotgun, take the snap directly, go into the throwing motion and make the throw. I mean, the ball comes out very quickly, and I think Missouri will try to do, that sort of similar to what NC State did, at least early, is get the ball out quickly, get it into the skill position guys. And the key to this game, I think, first is going to be, winning the battle on first down, getting Missouri into more so obvious passing situations, making Drew Lock uncomfortable. Because I think what he showed last week in the times that I saw him at least flushed out of the pocket, I don't think he's quite as good flushed out of the pocket as he is in the pocket. Now, most guys aren't, but he showed to me that when he does get flushed, he is apt to make, a dangerous throw and make a mistake and kind of throw the ball up. So it's going to be imperative for South Carolina, guys like Dante Sawyer, DJ Wanham, Kier Thomas, Aaron Sterling, Bryson Allen Williams, Taylor Stallworth, just, the whole front seven and the front four, the front four mostly, to get that pass rush, to be able to get a pass rush, make Drew Lock uncomfortable, and also up to Taylor Stallworth and Uric Jones to plug the holes in the middle. Because like we were saying, I mean, Missouri has Demario Crockett, Ish Witter, who were able to have really, really good days against the South Carolina defense last year. It's going to be imperative they at least slow those guys down. Now, Tyler, I think one big thing that I found really interesting and that we've definitely talked about in the preseason, South Carolina has had their struggles on the road. They're actually 2-12 in their last 14 road games. Jake, I didn't even know that stat. 2-12 in the last 14 road games. We talked about what we needed to see out of Jake Bentley with his development, being able to go on the road, handle a hostile environment. I'm not sure I would call Missouri, the most hostile environment in the SEC. No. I mean, still it's an SEC venue. Missouri, I think, has a pretty solid following, and it will be a night game. Tyler, do you think that this team in 2017 is more equipped to go on the road, even if it is a smaller venue, but go on the road, handle adversity that may come like that because of the team being a year older, led by Jake Bentley, who has seen to mature? Do you think that they're more equipped now to handle that than maybe say they were a year ago?
I hope so, but like on the way to dinner, I was listening to 107.5 The Game, and Hayden Hurst was talking. They asked him that exact question, and he said, "Well, we have a year of experience under our belt as an offense, and I think you'll see a more refined team on the road next week." But I'm not ready to kind of say yes yet. I'll believe it when I see it, and I hope we see it Saturday. It's not really something because we saw what happened last year every time on the road, and I can't really say for sure yet until we see it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's something like you were saying, you just kind of have to show up and play and really just prove yourself and, be able to go on the road. And, even though it's not a huge venue, be able to handle yourself. You're probably going to use a lot of, silent counts and a lot of hand signals, and there's going to be some chaos. And there's definitely going to be some adversity that happens in the game. And, Jake Bentley be able to handle that, and this offense be able to handle it as well. So I'm definitely really interested to see how that plays out, how he performs on the road. I think he'll do pretty well. I think, he's gotten that year under his belt, and obviously the 2 road games he played in were at Florida and at Clemson. I mean, you ask a true freshman to go into those venues, he looked like a true freshman. I mean, there's not much else you can really ask of him. So I think that's one thing that sort of does get lost in the shuffle. And while, Charlotte was by no means a road game, it wasn't a home game either. And he, played obviously very well. So, but it'll be really interesting. I mean, I'm very intrigued to see how Bentley handles, a night game in the SEC away from your home venue. So, Tyler, we talked a lot again, about the NC State win. We've already, recapped that and everything, but moving into this week, I'm curious to get your take on, and I'll give you mine, the importance of this game, building off of what you did in week 1 against NC State, the SEC opener, you're playing Missouri, somebody who you really feel like that. I think most South Carolina fans feel like from a talent standpoint, you should beat. This is a game that I think a lot of South Carolina fans marked as a win on the schedule before the season. I think the importance of this game can't be stressed enough. I honestly think that this game, maybe was more important in the preseason even than the NC State game, because we talked about you can start 0-1 out of conference. You can lose a game there. You can't start 0-2 and lose your first conference game. But now, in my opinion, to really set the tone for the season and set the stage, and if you want to do big things and you have these aspirations to maybe challenge for the East, beat the East, win the state. Beat the East, win the state. That's the mantra. I heard Jake Bentley say it today on the Feinbaum show. That's what they preach over and over again. This is a game you have to win. I mean, this is a huge, huge game to open the SEC season right. Obviously, you are an underdog in Vegas. The line actually opened Missouri -4.5. It's actually down to 2.5 now. South Carolina is a 2.5 point underdog now. Over under sitting around 74 points. But with that being said, you're an underdog in week 1. You come in this game again. I think South Carolina, and Tyler, you can tell me if you agree, this is a huge game for them to really build off the momentum you got in week 1, because I think if you lose this game, you sort of undo everything that you did in the initial week.
Right. I think the first game kind of serves as the people that kind of didn't believe. You're like, oh, they're just going to be a normal South Carolina team, go 6-6. I think they kind of shut those people up, and you can see it in the AP poll where people actually respected them, gave them some votes to be ranked. And I think this game is going to kind of serve as more of an internal thing. Like, hey, if you're going to win the East, you got to win this game. I mean, you're not going to lose to Missouri and win the East. It's a huge game, and I think it's way more important than the NC State game is looking at it now. And I don't think I would have admitted that last week. I do think it's a bigger game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually talking with someone else, else about this. It's sort of, to me, like the chicken or the egg theory with young teams. It's like, what comes first, success or confidence? Because some people will say, you become confident by being successful. Others will say your confidence breeds success happening to you. Well, with a game like this, the South Carolina team, who's still extremely young, this is a huge game for their psyche, for their confidence. Winning a game like this on the road, and then week 3 being able to come home. We know, Tyler, it's going to be a big difference coming home playing Kentucky when you're 2-0 versus 1-1. It's just going to be a completely different vibe, a completely different feeling. And for this team, I mean, if they're able to go into Missouri and win this game, it could do wonders for not just Jake Bentley, not just Rico Dowdle, not just Brian Edwards or any of these other younger guys, but this entire team's psyche and this entire team's confidence, and be able to, elevate them to heights that maybe we didn't even see before in the preseason. So you have any take on that? Or
I was telling my buddies at dinner tonight, I was like, if we can come out of Missouri with a win and go into that Kentucky game, just knowing all the history with Kentucky the last couple of years, going into a night game blackout, that could be one of the most anticipated games we've had in Columbia in a long time, in several years. And I think it would definitely be the biggest hyped Muschamp era game. And I think the guys know that. I think they know if they take care of business that they could have a complete packed house for your home opener, and I think they want that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you can even see the excitement with after beating NC State. They came out and said there's only 1,000 tickets left for the Kentucky game.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
You beat Missouri. I mean, there's no question those are going to sell out in a minute. So, moving into something, Tyler, I'm curious. I want to talk about some key matchups for this game. I'm curious to get kind of if you have any key matchups you have on your mind. I'll start first with mine. My first one, we talked about him a lot. Obviously, Jamon Moore, the Missouri wide receiver. One of my bigger matchups of the day, I think, is going to be South Carolina quarterback Rashad Fenton against Missouri wide receiver Jamon Moore. Now, Jamon Moore is a little bit bigger than Fenton. Moore's around 6'2", 6'3". Fenton stands about 5'10", but I think Fenton's going to be shadowing him, all day long. I thought about maybe will they put Jamarcus King on him being 6'2", having more of a height matchup, but I just think after last week with the struggles that Jamarcus King had, I think it's clear Fenton's their best corner. He's extremely fast. I think he's very physical last week. He fights for the football. I think that the matchup that those two guys have is going to be highlighted all day because obviously, I agree with you to an extent that I think they're still going to kind of play that same thing we saw last week, sort of giving the receivers cushion. They're not going to get beat with the big play. I think I saw a quote today from I believe it was Ulrich Jones or Keir Thomas, one of the defensive guys. They talked about, bend but don't break. It kind of is what it is, and the real valuable real estate is the red zone. And I just sort of think they've kind of taken that mantra and that mindset. I don't know. I think that's just sort of what they believe in. I mean, and I don't really, I think the me of a couple of years ago would have really minded it because it's like, where are these defenses at? You should be averaging giving up 11 points, 14 points a game. But the game is so offensive now. I mean, it's just, honestly, if you can stop a team from scoring touchdowns every drive and holding the field goals, you got a really good shot to win. So on one hand, it does help. The biggest thing for South Carolina, though, is going to be getting, and I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, is getting Missouri off the field, and being able to chew up some clock and not get dominated in time of possession like last week. But anyways, my first key matchup, definitely going to be Rashad Fenton against Jamon Moore. He's going to have to play physical, limit Moore because he's obviously Drew Lock's favorite target, and Lock has shown the ability to definitely get the football to him. So I think that'll be a big one. Tyler, did you have one in mind? Or
I'll go on the flip side of that. I'll take Jamarcus King, and I'm assuming it'll be Jonathan Moore, or Jonathan Johnson. Sorry,
Johnson. Yeah.
Obviously, I've said a lot about Jamarcus King and how I feel about him, but this is going to be one of those games where he's just going to have to grow up, and he's going to have to play his best game because they're going to target him, just kind of pick on him a little bit because it seemed like against NC State he got away with so many pass interferences that could have been called, and I think in a night road game in the SEC they're going to call those, and I think they know that, and they're going to pick on him. He's going to have to show up.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think it's these Missouri receivers last week. One thing they definitely showed was the ability, their speed. I mean, they're all quick, they're all fast, they can all make moves. So yeah, I mean, Jamarcus King definitely did not have his best game last week, and I think that's putting it lightly. He's going to definitely have to improve really quickly, and bring his A game to this game this week. One thing I wanted to say as well, I thought South Carolina, Tyler, you correct me if I'm wrong, I felt like they did a lot more sort of a base 4-3 defense, not so much nickel and dime, not because I think they sort of figured, which was, that NC State's more of a power run team, not so much a spread wide open. With Missouri, they're obviously just spread 4 wide, 5 wide. I think you'll see a lot more nickel, a lot more 3 down. They'll get really creative using Bryson Allen Williams and Aaron Sterling. And there's other guys who rush the quarterback, but I think it's going to be a lot more nickel. You're going to see a lot more DBs in there. Going to see some guys we probably didn't even see really. I mean, Stephen Montag played a little bit here and there last week. I think he'll play a ton. Yeah. Jamias Williams is obviously going to be tested again. I think a guy like Keyshawn Nixon will get in the game. But I think you're going to see a lot more rotation of defensive backs, and I think they're going to have a lot more defensive backs on the field. At least I would assume with this spread offense and pass-happy offense. So my second matchup I'm really looking for, and this is a really, really big one, I think. This is a really big key to this game, I think, is just I was going to pick one of them, but I'm just going to go the South Carolina running backs against Missouri defensive tackle Terry Beckner Jr. I think one of the biggest reasons South Carolina was able to win the game last year was their ability to run the football and control the clock, control the line of scrimmage. This was kind of the time, Tyler, not just Jake Bentley, but Rico Dowdle at that point last season was really, really establishing himself. I mean, the game last year, I'll give you the stat. He had 27 carries for 149 yards.
Oh, yeah.
So he had a huge game, and he also had a receiving touchdown that I didn't even think about. So it's just going to be imperative to get a running game going, a running game established. Obviously, last week, South Carolina, I think, ran for like 31 yards in the game or something like that. They're going to have to run the football. I mean, they're just going to have to be able to control the clock, keep Missouri's offense off the field, get some sort of balance and tempo going. and like I said, just kind of develop a rhythm, because I think just running for 31 yards again is not going to cut it. They're going to have to, especially when that part of the Missouri defense is a weakness, and you really should be able to expose them. I mean, let's just face it. Besides Terry Beckner, who's a really good player, their defensive line is without a doubt a liability, and you really should be able to manufacture some pretty nice runs, get Dowdle his touches, but also I think this is a good game to get Tyson Williams in there, get A.J. Turner, and they obviously want to use those guys, but it's hard to get those guys any touches when you're not able to run the football at all with any of them. So it'll be really interesting to see how they're able to distribute the football in the backfield.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think this is going to be one of those games where I think it's going to be that split 3 ways running back, because they're going to want to dominate the clock. They know Missouri is going to get down the field and score, and they know they're going to be able to run the ball. I really think that they're going to use all 3 like they said they were going to, and I think they'll have success, because 149 yards is pretty impressive. He did it relatively easy as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. My last key matchup that I would really look at, and originally, Tyler, I know you see, I had down here South Carolina linebacker Sky Moore against Missouri quarterback Drew Lock. I'm going to change that to more so Sky Moore against Missouri's offensive game plan in general, because, I think we don't need to forget about Crockett. We don't need to forget about, the other running back, Ishwitter. And, obviously Sky Moore was a guy you didn't have last year. He wasn't in the middle there to plug up those holes and, not taking anything away from TJ Brunson in the week he had last week. But Sky Moore is still, I think, the guy that makes this defense tick. And what I noticed is that Drew Lock, he really likes to go to the underneath route. He really likes to go to kind of the drag there, the short little out. They like short passes. I mean, that's something that Missouri likes to do in this offense. Moves the ball really quickly. And also, they love giving the ball to Crockett up the middle. I just think it's going to be imperative that Sky Moore have a great game. He's going to need to have 10-plus tackles, be involved, be around the football, and I really expect him to. I expect him to have a great football game. But especially in a game like this, when you're playing such a high-powered offense, turnovers is going to be imperative. It's going to be key to the football game. Whoever can force the most turnovers and not turn the football over, obviously. So having a guy like Sky Moore has a knack for the football, being able to read the eyes of a guy, Drew Lock, and then being able to fill in and run, in run protection against Crockett, against Witter, I think is going to be a huge piece to this game. That'll be a really interesting matchup to see how that plays out.
Yep, I agree 100%. My last matchup, I'm going to take not just Hayden Hurst, but the tight ends as a whole against these linebackers. I think this is going to be just like I was talking about with the running backs. They didn't use them last week that much. They really didn't use the tight ends at all last week. And I think this is going to be another week you see that a lot on third down. They're going to go right over the middle. I think Casey Crosby is going to have a big role. I'm pretty sure he had a touchdown against Missouri last year, if I'm right. Can you check?
Yeah, let me see. Let's see, receiving. Looks like, yeah, he did. He actually did.
So
yeah.
I think it'll be both of them getting a lot of touches, a lot of targets.
Yeah, and in this game last year, actually, Debo had a big game. Debo had
27.
Let's see. No, he had 27. 9 catches for 125 yards. So
wow,
he had a really big game in this one last year too. But Casey Crosby had a 6-yard touchdown reception from Jake Bentley. So no, I definitely love that. I'm so glad you brought that up. The tight ends is definitely going to be a huge piece this week. I think Will Muschamp, it said that last week they had plays designed to go to them, but I think it was a great point you made before the NC State game. I think those guys are mainly used in pass block and run block, and South Carolina knew what they were facing on the defensive front, with NC State's vaunted defensive line. I really love now, those games are always great when you win them for sure. I mean, getting the season started off like that, it's not so much. You don't love scheduling those games when you lose them per se, but, now you come into this game, well, we've seen NC State's defensive line. I mean, I don't think we're scared at all of the Missouri defensive line, and being able to, not have to keep those guys in and kind of split them out. You can put Crosby in the slot. You can have Hayden run pass catching routes. I just think it's going to be a huge benefit to those guys, and I completely agree with you. I expect the tight ends to have a huge day. So moving in, Tyler, just, some of my keys of the game overall. My first one's just going to be Road Warriors. Show your ability to play on the road. Like I said, South Carolina is 2-12 in their last 14 home games. Going to have to show the ability to stay poised. Battle off the crowd that's there, and Obviously show that last year, in these last 14 games are a fluke, and you're able to kind of get over that hump, if you will, on the road. My second one, just find a balance. Again, have to get the running game involved. It's going to balance the offense. Keep Missouri off the field, though, is the more important part of that. Keep Drew Lock on the bench. He can't beat you on the bench. Be able to run the clock, not turn this into a 56-52 game or 49-42. Be able to control the pace, be able to control the tempo, and really frustrate the Missouri offense, like I said, by keeping them off the field. And then, it seems so cliche, Tyler, we talk about it all the time, but win the turnover battle and be opportunistic on D. That bend but don't break mentality, that's fine and dandy, but you have to be able to create turnovers, be opportunistic like you were in the NC State game. Get to the quarterback again. You had 4 sacks last week against a pretty solid NC State O-line. You're going to have to do that again against Drew Lock. Make him uncomfortable. Force him to throw the ball into coverage. So I think for me, Tyler, personally, those are going to be the 3 biggest keys of the game for the Gamecocks come out of Columbia with a W. What's your take on that?
I know Will Muschamp was talking about kind of irrelevant stats in his weekly press conference. I'm not buying it. My key to this game is going to be controlling the time possession. We kind of got owned on it last week, and I think we'll see a conceded effort to own the clock and let Rico just run. All of them just run and get that clock down. Like you said, Drew Lock can't beat you on the bench, so that we're going to see I think more of a slower paced offense, kind of that Spurrier, just kind of wait until 1 second on the game clock and snap it. I hope I see that because I think that's the way to beat them. Just attack the weak spots on this defense. We don't need to sugarcoat it. This defense is not good. Missouri State scored 35 points. Come on. Those are really my only 2.
35 in the first half.
Yeah, that's what I should have said.
42 overall, but 35 in the first half.
And I have a third one. The defensive line is going to have to just keep putting pressure on the quarterback. 4 sacks are fine and dandy against these NC State, but this offensive line for Missouri is much bigger, like you said. I think they'll need more than 4 sacks, unfortunately, but I think they'll do it.
Yeah, and I think it's just like we talked about, sort of like the play with Kier Thomas had and DJ Wanham had as well. But when the one Kier Thomas, the one that sticks out to me. The play where you're able to bull rush the tackle and make the quarterback just uncomfortable. Those type of plays are going to be huge in this game as well. I don't know that you have to have more than 4 sacks necessarily, but you're going to have to be on Drew Lock all day long, getting to him, make him extremely uncomfortable. Can't let him sit back in the pocket and just pick you apart. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think that you're not going to win a ton of games having 24 minutes of time of possession. I love. Yeah, I love Coach Muschamp's sentiment there, and I agree to an extent with his our efficiency on offense and the way the game played out. That's just sort of what happened. But again, you're not going to win a lot of games having 24 minutes time of possession. You're not going to win a lot of games when you get doubled up and the snaps taken. So and obviously it's just not good for your defense to be on the field for 100 snaps and they only get 50 snaps of rest. So that'll be a huge key as well. All right, Tyler, let's get to it. Finally, the predictions for the game. I'm going to let you start first. Saturday night, 7 o'clock Eastern.
Holy crap.
Battle for the Mayor's Cup. What's going to happen?
Oh, I haven't even thought about this yet. I'll go – I think South Carolina wins, and I don't think it's the 2-point game like Vegas is predicting. Even that's the other way around. But I think this will be more of a – I'll go 42-31 South Carolina.
I like that prediction. Yeah, I actually, like I told you before – I think it's going to be a little lower scoring than, especially Vegas is thinking. They got the total set at 74. I just – and a lot of people I've seen, like I told you, predictions 49-42, 56-52 I saw one. I just don't think it's going to be a track meet like that. South Carolina was able to hold – while it was in Columbia, you take a South Carolina team that was much slower. I think we both agree much slower. The first year in Coach Muschamp's system, while it was even in Columbia, South Carolina – they were able to hold this Missouri offense to 21 points. And let's keep in perspective here. Yes, they scored 73 points against Missouri State, an FCS opponent. They scored 79 against Delaware last year. So, it's this Missouri team. I think that must be something they like to do is just run the score up on these smaller teams. And because, Drew Lock was still slinging it around the fourth quarter last week. They were up by 30. So, I'm not so much worried that I think, South Carolina is just not going to be able to stop Missouri at all. I think it's going to be a lot lower scoring than that. I still think it will be, a generally high scoring game, but I'm going to go South Carolina. I like yours. I'm going to go South Carolina 38. We'll say Missouri 24. So I think actually South Carolina, they get a late touchdown pull away and actually get a 14-point win on the road. I think Drew Lock's a great player, but I think South Carolina will do enough. They showed a lot to me on the defensive line. It'll be bend but don't break again. I think they'll make a couple of key fourth down stops again late in the game to kind of, like I said, hold off the Tigers. But I think South Carolina, I think has the better athletes. I mean, you watch Missouri and their offense and what they did last week. Yes, they were able to make some huge explosive plays, but Missouri State has nowhere near the caliber of athletes South Carolina has, especially on the defensive side of the football. And, I mean, South Carolina has, I would imagine, a much greater athlete on the offensive side, so it should be a field day there for the Gamecocks. But I think the reason for the lower scoring, I think Rico Dowdle will get it going this week. I think they're going to make it a point of emphasis to get him going. And that'll help, churn up some clock. I fully expect South Carolina to win time of possession battle this week. I mean, last year, Tyler, that was a huge key. They actually held the ball last year in this game for 36 minutes and 10 seconds to Missouri's 23.
That's
so
good.
that was obviously a huge part of that game. And I think it'll sort of play out like it did last year. It was a 10-point win. Missouri picking the end zone in the game. I think it'll sort of play similarly to that. Like I said, I think 38-24 will be my prediction there. So with that, we'll put the Gamecocks at 2-0 coming home, like you said, for the blackout against Missouri. So it'll be really interesting to watch what happens there. But we are going to get into some listener questions. Had a ton of questions. We always appreciate those. We'll get right to it. This first comes from Armchair All-Americans, our Missouri writer, actually, Blake Heckel. He asked, should the bigger focus be stopping the run game or the passing game? Tyler, I'll let you answer that one first.
He's talking about for us against them?
For South Carolina, should South Carolina's bigger focus be stopping the run game or the passing game?
Yeah, like I said, I think they're going to give them their passing game and give them their 10 yards they want. And I think if we can stop them on first down from getting a few yards in the run game, I think they're going to be forced to make some bigger passes downfield. So I'll go stop the run, because if they stop the run, we'll know it's coming.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you as well, stopping the run, just because, like I was saying earlier, winning first down, getting Missouri in third and longs. I'm not sure this offense is really comfortable, and when you're able to stop the run, I think you're able to get the hurry up offense a little bit, off the field a little bit quicker. So, being able to get Drew Lock into some third and long situations, letting your pass rushers be able to pin their ears back, go after the quarterback will be huge. So, yeah, I agree with you there. This comes from Reddit, MG Nickel. How do they put up so many points, and what do we need to do to stop it? I'll take this one first. Well, they were playing Missouri State. That's for one. Missouri has a good offense. Drew Lock can sling the football around. They have athletes on the outside, but I think it really just comes down to level of competition. And obviously, like I said, Drew Lock's ability to throw the football, he was able to move it downfield, but most of their points, a good majority at least, came on really short passes where, Missouri's guy was able to make the catch probably 5 to 10 yards at the line of scrimmage, and then from there, just make one move and beat a guy and go to the end zone. So really, one thing we didn't even talk about, Tyler, that I think is going to be huge in this game, and it's going to make a huge difference from last week against Missouri State this week, was South Carolina's ability to tackle. If they can tackle as well as they did in NC State, tackle in space, those 6-yard gains won't be 70-yard touchdowns. Right? It's obviously going to be a huge key. So, that's how Missouri was able to put up that many points. I think that's how Carolina is going to be able to stop it. Get pressure on Drew Lock, but also just tackle at a really high level. That's how you're going to be able to stop, at least slow down that Missouri offense. Another question from Reddit. We got a couple here from Reddit, actually. Italian Stallion 2, on defense, will Carolina scheme in a similar manner by, like we were saying, Tyler, not give up the big play? Will that be the scheme? Or will they focus on tighter coverage? I'll let you start on this one since you kind of touched on it earlier.
Yep, I've said it 100 times, but they're 100% just going to not give up that big play, not let them go vertical downfield. They like to do that too. They always have. So I think they'll give them this cushion until they get into the red zone. It's the Holy Land. Yeah,
I agree with you. Yeah, I think they will. Just because of Missouri's athleticism, I think they will still kind of give up the underneath throughout. But like I said, I think the coaches don't mind, which is, with Will Muschamp, him being a defensive guy, it's a little surprising. But they don't care about stats. They want to win, and it's all about it's all about getting the football out for them. I just really hope. I'd love to see a couple interceptions this week, see the secondary really perform. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, Another question, Reddit, Legion _of_turnt, which is a great name.
Yes.
Do you expect our running game to have more of an impact? I'll take this one. Like I said earlier, absolutely. I think you're going to see Rico get a ton of carries. I think they're going to be able to use Tyson Williams and A.J. Turner a lot more. I just think it's a much better matchup for South Carolina's offensive line going up against Missouri's defensive line. They're nowhere near the caliber that NC State is. I think they'll be able to push around Missouri a little bit, open some holes for guys like Rico Dowdle. I expect Rico to have a really big day, to be honest with you, leading this backfield. So, yeah, I absolutely expect the running game to have more of an impact.
All right, I was going to ask you this earlier, but now this is a perfect segue into this. Over under 125 for Rico Dowdle.
That's tough. That's tough. That's really tough.
I feel like he's going to at least get 100.
Yeah, I'm going to go under just because the two other guys they have. I want to say over because I think if he's running it that well, they're going to keep giving it to him. I'll go under just because I think they want to get all three guys in. I mean, he only had 147 last year, and he was the only back touching the football.
That's true.
So, but he was a freshman there. So, I mean, would I be surprised if he went over? Absolutely not. But I think they really, if they're able to open holes, I think that's one big thing. I think they're going to want to try to get other guys touches, especially if South Carolina is able to jump out to an early lead or kind of build a 14-point lead in the second half. I definitely think they're going to want to try to get Tyson and AJ touches. I just think that's a huge thing, especially if they know they're able to open holes. So, it'll be interesting. I think all three guys will have a good day, but it wouldn't shock me at all if Rico had over 125. This comes from Reddit again. JS Hokie 1. Against NC State, our plan for Hayden Hurst seemed to be that we didn't use him in the passing games. He is always needed for an extra blocker against the D-line. Do you expect Hurst to have more of an offensive impact? The same could be asked for Shi Smith or Ortre. In the case of Ortre, I'm just curious as to where he was last week. Tyler, I'll let you start with this one. We talked about it a little bit. First off, talking about Hayden Hurst, do you think he'll have more of an impact kind of coming off from being a blocker like he was last week, more involved with the offense?
Yeah, I think Hayden will definitely get several targets. Going into having an offensive impact, absolutely. It opens up an extra dimension for this offense that it's hard to guard because, like the question says, you have Shi Smith, you got Debo Samuel, you got Brian Edwards, and Hayden Hurst and Casey Crosby are just another guy you have to focus on. So the coaching staff, I have faith in Kurt Roper to find a way to get them all used. And then asking about Ortre, we only had 50 snaps last week, and he's listed as a backup. I think it was a good thing that he didn't really – I don't even know if he was on the field once. But
I didn't see him at all.
So it's just one less guy that Missouri has film on. So I think he'll be on the field this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's a true freshman. And like you said, 50 snaps. And, there's a time and a place to get a young guy like that. I know Shi Smith's obviously a true freshman, but there's definitely a time and a place to get a young guy in a game like that. And in a close game like that, I don't know that you're going to want to put all your trust and faith in Ortre Smith to go make the catch for you. I mean, I know the kid has a ton of talent, but this may be a game more so where they're going to have more opportunities to get different guys the football. And I think in a game like NC State, you really had to rely on your go-to guys, your Debo Samuels, your Brian Edwards. But I thought Shi Smith had a great game last week. Personally, I loved seeing.
He had a great game.
I loved the way they used him on the quick passes, on the out route.
The out routes, amazing.
Shi Smith showed, and dude, I don't know. Maybe it's me. I hadn't seen us throw a quick out route like that in forever. I can't remember the last time we used that type of play. Really, last time we had a quarterback that could make the throw too. But yeah, I think Shi will have another big impact. I really would like to see Ortre get in there this week, but I think it's all going to kind of go with the flow of the game. I mean, they have a ton of good options at wide receiver, so I wouldn't be surprised to see South Carolina spread it out a little bit more this week. But and maybe see him in there as the fourth wide receiver, something like that. So Reddit CDog_96 asks, how do we go about winning games that should be definite wins and not screwing up? And then he follows with, where is Keyshawn Nixon? I'll start with this one. How do you go about winning games that should be definite wins and not screwing up? You show up and play hard. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a mentality thing, though, really, to be serious, to really answer the question. I think it's all just about mentality, preparing the same way. It sounds like a lot of coach speak, but preparing the same way, coming in each game, attacking the task at hand, trying to get better each week. And It's a laser focus. I mean, the reason why Alabama is so good and doesn't lose, they have a laser focus every week. They don't get comfortable. They don't read their own press clippings, if you will. So it's about, forgetting what happened last week, as great as the win was, turn your focus to Missouri, find the task at hand, go out and win a football game. I think that's the number one. And where's Keyshawn Nixon? I talked about a little bit about it earlier. He was a guy that got on campus at the beginning of fall camp. I thought they would work him in a little bit slower. And I don't think last week was really the week to get him in. I think, they're going to work a lot more nickel and dime sets this week. I think Keyshawn will see the field a lot. I think it's a guy they're really high on, but obviously just got in the system. And I think they will work him in this week. Any thoughts on that at all?
Like I said earlier, it's kind of blunt, but you just got to grow up. There's a lot of those times you just got to grow up. In past seasons, we have a really tough schedule this year, no doubt about it. But in past years, like the first conference game was always Georgia, and our young guys would have to face Georgia and grow up against Georgia. This year, Georgia we play much later. These are the types of games that these guys are going to have to grow up, and I think it's a lot easier to do it against Missouri. So they're just going to have to go in there and play hard. Play smart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, play smart for sure. And then our last question will come from Reddit again. This is Meal Solutions. From what I saw of the NC State game, Dowdle received a significant amount of snaps at running back. Can we expect that to change at all versus Mizzou? Tyler, I'll let you answer that one first.
Yeah, if you watch Rico Dowdle's media availability from, I guess it was Monday, they asked him the same question, and he said he wasn't tired. He didn't feel the need to go out of the game since we only got 50 snaps. So if he's not tired, I don't think they're going to put the other guys in. I think the other guys are used just to kind of keep fresh legs in there. So if we're in the same situation, which I seriously doubt that we will be, Rico will just keep getting the ball if he's not tired.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think like we talked about before, and I think it stands true to this day, it's still Rico Dowdle's backfield. I think he's the leader of the backfield. But I do, like I said, expect there to be some rotation Saturday with Tyson, Rico, and AJ, just because I think they will be able to stay on the field longer, get more snaps, give other guys more opportunities, not just in the running game, but obviously coming out of the backfield, the screen game. They tried to get Tyson and involved with that. Really, I think he had like one catch for 5 yards, but that play, that getting guys in like that just really wasn't there Saturday. So I think it'll be Dowdle majority of the time, but I do think they will get other guys in there and build up a nice little rotation. So with that being said, little post show, Tyler. Biggest game you're excited for this weekend besides the South Carolina Missouri game?
Oh, I haven't even looked at it. I don't even know. Oh, it has to be Auburn and Clemson. 100%. I'm really excited to see Clemson play against a decent defense, to see how good Kelly Bryant is. I mean, non-biased, he looked great against Kent State, but I guess Michael Skarnecki would look great against Kent State. So we'll see.
Yeah, that'll really be a game for the ages. That'll be a really great game. I mean, Jarrett Stidham coming into Clemson.
I'm not sold on Auburn. I'm not sold. I mean, I feel like they're this way every single year, and they're just let me down. It's kind of like the Oklahoma State thing. Like everyone talked about them this year, but they're going to have to go out and prove it. I mean, they did last week, but we'll see about Auburn. I still think Clemson wins pretty easily, but it's definitely going to be a good test for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. I mean, it feels like obviously it's not. I think Auburn's like 13th, but it feels like a top 10 matchup.
Right.
Obviously, I think we'd love to see Auburn go in there and get the W. But
I would cry. Yeah,
it'd be a good game nonetheless. Also, the game at the Horseshoe, Oklahoma going to Ohio State should be a really fun one. And then Georgia going to South Bend for the Notre Dame game. They've got Jake Fromm starting. Jacob Eason's out anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. So it'll be interesting how the Dogs, what happens there. And
those are good games.
In just a wild SEC East from what happened in week 1, it should be another fun weekend. So, but with that, we'll wrap it up. Like I said, be sure to check us out on iTunes at the Spurs Up Show. Rate, subscribe. We appreciate all the feedback there. Follow us on our Twitter at ArmchairSCAR. Again, that's at ArmchairSCAR. Check us out on armchairallamericans.com for all of our content there, articles, the show, of course. And then follow our Instagram account at ArmchairSCarolina for all your unique content there, videos. We post clips from the show, cool pictures, just all kinds of stuff like that. So with that being said, the battle for the Mayor's Cup Saturday. Tyler, going into the game, you got any last words or?
Yeah, actually, kind of a post-show thing. I didn't get to ask you. Did you watch King George last night on SEC Network?
I recorded it. I haven't gotten to watch it. I actually had to. We recorded our SEC podcast, me and Dimitri, and we started at 9. I was a little bitter about that, but I have it DVR'd. I may have to stay up late and watch it tonight. Actually,
you should. It is really, really good.
I've heard great things in Twitter. Obviously, everybody on Twitter was talking about it, so I think I'm definitely gonna have to watch that. So I might actually.
One part of it was almost a tearjerker. It kind of got really good for a minute.
Really. Yeah, I might actually now that you got me thinking about it, I might actually have to do that right after we get done with this.
All right, that's all I got.
I think that's a good way to wrap it up. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the game. We'll catch you next week to recap Missouri.